Call the Budget Review Committee to order. It's Wednesday, August 12th, 2020. It's 7 p.m. As chairman of the Budget Review Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I'm confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. To access Zoom, please refer to the agenda or the city's website for the meeting link. To join by phone, dial 1-929-205-6099. The meeting ID is 845-2242-0014. And the password is 422796. The public may also view the meeting via channel 16. We're providing public notice. We provided public notice to the public on the assessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting through public postings. Instructions have also been provided on the City of Nashua's website at www.nashua.nh.gov and publicly noticed at City Hall. We provide a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem accessing the meeting via phone or channel 16, please call 603-821-2049 and they will help you connect. We will adjourn the meeting if the public has problem accessing the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting via the methods mentioned, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during the meeting shall be done by roll call vote. We're going to start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during the meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Would the acting clerk, Alderman Jettie, please call roll?
Chairman Dowd.
Present. And I can hear everyone, and I'm alone practicing social distancing. And I think that's it. Yep. I'm alone.
Alderman Clemmons.
I am here. I can hear everybody. I'm at home alone.
Alderman Schmidt.
I am present. I can hear everyone, and I am in the room alone.
Alderman Jettie is here. I'm staying safer at home. I can hear everyone, and I'm alone. Alderman Wilshire.
I'm here. I'm alone, and I can hear everyone.
Alderman Kelly.
I'm here. I'm alone. I can hear everyone, and I am practicing social distancing.
And Alderman O'Brien is not with us this evening because he's ill.
And we also have several other members with us this evening. Alderman Cleaver, Alderman Lopez, Alderman Clemmons, Alderman Clee. Did I miss anyone? Also in attendance is Deputy Attorney Corporation Counsel Leonard, Director Tim Cummings, the mayor. I think I get everyone. Okay. Is there anyone that would like to provide any public comment at this point? Wave your hand if you, Mr. Melville.
Yep, sorry about that. I had to unmute myself. This is Drew Melville. I'm here with Peter Floats as attorney for Lansing Melbourne Group on the development agreement discussion tonight. and I'm with Melville Law. I'm alone in a room here in Satellite Beach, Florida. Been quarantining since March.
Florida, wow. Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone else that would like? Yes, Bob?
Yes. Bob Keating, 5 Coburn Woods. I'm alone.
Okay. All right. Anyone else for public comment? All right. There being no objections, I'd like to suspend the rules to allow for the introduction of a communication that was received after the agenda was prepared and presented at last night's Board of Aldermen meeting. And it's from Treasurer Fredette. Did everyone get a copy? I don't
Yes.
see anybody saying no.
Yes, I received it.
Okay. And we're going to take that up this evening. There was some confusion as to where that legislation should have gone, but we're going to, if someone would make a motion, well, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to accept and place on file and approve the purchase of a 2020 Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicle in the amount of $49,516.50 to be taken from the SURF account and awarded to Municipal Vehicles, Marlboro, Mass. By roll call. Before we get there, this is a vehicle that in July, a police cruiser was involved in an accident that was totaled. And since it's not a normal replacement of a vehicle, it had to come back to the Board of Aldermen. So I'm asking that we authorize this, and then the contract for the new vehicle will be awarded at Finance next Wednesday. Any questions or concerns on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Jettie?
Yeah, so this this request is because of an accident that occurred unanticipated.
Yes.
Where a police vehicle was totaled. This is not, I remember that when we voted on the budget, there was a motion to pay, I can't remember the number, but a certain amount of money to the police department. And to get that money, we took away from them a couple of vehicles. This isn't one of those vehicles.
It isn't not one of these vehicles, and the mayor has put some money in SURF to cover the cost of the vehicle.
Okay.
That was part of the agenda last night, actually. And I think, I'm not sure what committee that went to, but probably finance. So the money is being put into SURF, and then we're authorizing the money to come out of SURF, and finance next Wednesday will award the contract to Municipal Vehicles, Marlboro, Mass. But right now, we just have to approve the motion that I just made. Any other concerns or questions? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Dowd,
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons,
Yes.
Alderman Schmidt,
Yes.
Alderman Jettie votes yes, Alderman Wilshire,
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Okay.
6
68
yeas, 0 nays.
motion carries, and Treasurer Fredette will be very happy. Okay. Unfinished business. Do I have a motion to remove from the table resolution R20-028? Alderman Kelly?
I move to remove that from the table. So moved.
Okay, the motion by Alderman Kelly to remove from the table resolution 020-028 authorizing the city of Nashua to enter into a master development agreement with Lansing Melbourne Group LLC by roll call. This is just taking it off the table for discussion. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Dowd,
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons,
Yes.
Alderman Schmidt,
Yes.
Alderman Jettie votes yes, Alderman Wilshire,
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
6
Okay.
yeas, 0 nays.
We will now be discussing R 20028. At this point in time, we're going to be discussing two items of business. One of them is going to be an appraisal. The other is going to be a client communication from Attorney Leonard. So at this time, we're going to go into non-public. I move the committee go into non-public session for two reasons. First, for the purpose of the consideration of the sale and lease of real property, which if discussed in public, would likely benefit a party or parties whose interests are adverse to those of the general community pursuant to RSA 91-A:32D. Second, under 91A:32L, for consideration of legal advice provided by legal counsel, either in writing or orally, to one or more members of the public body, even where legal counsel is not present. And I'm going to need a second to that motion.
I second.
Okay, is that Jettie, Alderman Jettie?
Yes, Alderman Jettie.
Okay. All right. And we will be coming back after the non-public portion to discuss the project in public. But right now, anyone that's not an alderman or city government is going to be put outside the meeting by Nashua ETV or CTV. And we will bring you back as soon as we're done discussing the non-public. So, Jeff?
I will do.
All right, hang on a second. We're going to take a vote. It's been motion's been made and seconded. And the clerk, please call the roll.
Chairman Dowd,
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons,
Yes.
Alderman Schmidt,
Yes.
Alderman Jettie votes yes. Alderman Wilshire,
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, motion carries. All right, would CTV please put everyone in the waiting room that's not.
So go ahead, Chairman Dowd.
Okay. Just a second. All right, so we're back in public session and we are discussing the motion 020-028 authorizing the city of Nashua enter into a master development agreement with Lansing Melbourne Group LLC. We are just this evening going to provide inputs.
Should we make a motion to seal the minutes?
Oh, sorry, you're right. Can I have a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public?
So moved.
Motion's been made, and I don't know if we need a second, but just in case.
I'll second.
Seconded,
Second.
yeah.
We all did.
Alderman Schmidt. So, seconded, would the clerk take the roll, please?
Chairman Dowd,
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons,
Yes.
Alderman Schmidt,
Yes.
Alderman Jettie votes yes. Alderman Wilshire,
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, most the non-public minutes are sealed. Okay. So before we get started, we're going to this evening listen to a presentation by Director Cummings. The city is soliciting inputs from this meeting. We are not going to take final action on this motion this evening. They will come back to us at a later time, probably not too much later, I would think. So with that being said, Director Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and for the record, Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development for the city. As just mentioned, the goal this evening is to make sure that we're marching down a path where we have consensus, and we're going to be looking to solicit your input. I think it's only fair to make sure that we are being fair and equitable to the private sector as well as to the public sector in terms of trying to put a deal together and make sure we have consensus with all the various parties based off of the terms. So my plan this evening is to, and I'm going to start to share my screen, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So my plan this evening is to walk you through a PowerPoint presentation I put together, basically recapping where we were in April. I talk about what we've done over the last few months in terms of a status update, and tell you what we've done to try to progress this project, and then ultimately open it up for conversation, so we can hopefully have a facilitated process that brings us to an approval. Before I continue, I know the mayor would like to say a few words. So if I could, Mr. Chairman, I'd like the mayor to speak before I continue on.
Mayor?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to give you a few thoughts of perspective on this project. You know, I live about walking distance from downtown, up Concord Street, off to the left, a couple of blocks. And on a recent morning, I think it was post-COVID, I got in a little white car. I drove downtown. It was kind of early. Sun's kind of still low to the sky. And I see a woman, a young woman, with casually dressed blue jeans, walking a little black and white dog, you know, with the bag of dog waste. I'd not seen that very often before. You know, and I've lived here, up here for a long time. And I've seen that frequently, more frequently now. You know, there was a guy, you know, various people there. And what does that tell us? And what did it just made me sort of kind of amazed. You know, the nature of the downtown is changing, and it is getting better. We have people who want to live downtown now and who are living. So it's a living, breathing community. People walk their dogs. Trouble is, there's not a lot of places to live, especially for young people who are looking for, you know, a pretty nice apartment, not very big. It's not so, it's difficult for them, and there aren't many places. I mean, we have Lofts 34, but those are bigger apartments. We've certainly got a lot of very valuable downtown residents there, and I see them when I walk by there all the time. But those are 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, you know, they're bigger units. Now, we, I think, as a city, as a Board of Aldermen, Mayor, Board of Aldermen, as a city government, I think we share the value that we want downtown to be a place of life and action, and a place that people want to be. And we've done a lot to, over many decades, to try to make that the case. I mean, we know, for reasons that we could get into, that all downtowns are very, very important to any city. I know from meetings with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, I mean, every mayor is focused on their downtown. Big cities, little cities, whatever. Everyone is very focused. One time, because downtown symbolizes the community and means so much to the image and the prosperity, the well-being of the entire city. And I once went to a design seminar, you know, 2 days where people presented various design issues to other mayors and various design professionals. And we presented the riverfront and the riverfront neighborhood. One guy was from, one mayor was from Oklahoma, I think, and actually it was Colorado, a big city, bigger than ours, with no downtown. And his problem, his design problem, was trying to, and he was very committed, you know, because they didn't have a downtown. They just have a bunch of roads. And they were trying to establish a downtown. But as he talked through this thing, very, very, very difficult to get a downtown if you don't have one. It's our history. It's where the city started. It's where we have beautiful architecture. Now, we've worked together in this vein both for a long time and recently. I mean, we decided when COVID-19 hit that we would expand outdoor dining to help the businesses and to strengthen downtown in the face of a very difficult crisis. And we worked together, we worked very quickly, and we did that. Were there risks? Yes. When hadn't you been told over, you know, the parking and the traffic, you know, there'll be traffic disaster. It'll be, you know, just gridlock from here to the highway if we close down a lane of Main Street. But we did it anyway because we wanted to, because we understood the importance of it. Now, I'm sure you all have been down there since we did that. A major success, major success. You sit like my wife and I sit on, you know, out there in the outdoor dining, say on Pearl Street. I'm facing East Pearl in front of Stella Blue, you know, sort of facing the west. Cars going by slowly, a lot of people around, the tables are pretty full. It's almost like a feeling of joy comes to me when that happens. This, you know, all of a sudden, the whole feeling of the place is changed. It's much more pedestrian friendly. People like to be there. People who were never there before are there now. And Buckley, Michael Buckley has said that we saved businesses down there. I'm sure we did. We can build on this. We can build on this and through this project bring more people, because that we all know that what we need are more dog walkers down there. We need people to actually live there and patronize who don't just drive in. This is what we need. This is what the businesses need. Now we, you know, we're going to talk about a different alternative that we've developed in response to the concerns of some of the neighbors, and there's other alternatives we could propose, but I believe that this is a moment of truth. I mean, I was there the day that Ed Bryce walked into City Hall, sat down in the conference room, the mayor's conference room, the one we have now, and said, and we had nothing. We had no clock tower, no cotton mill, no lofts 34, nothing. These mills were dying. Algorex was, you know, just had dead storage in where Clock Tower is. You know, windows falling out. And he said, we can qualify you for a HODAG grant, which I was aware of at the time. HODAG was Housing Development Action Grant. The program was ending, but we can qualify. And I said, well, the city's too affluent. He said, well, we can use the neighborhood, the demographics of that census tract, which is still the poorest census tract in the state of New Hampshire. Really? Really? That, I will never forget that moment, because Ed Bryce, smart, knew HUD, very, very, he understood the strategy, he knew what to do, and he changed the course of Nashua's downtown on that day. We worked with the Senate, with Senator Rudman. We worked later with John Stabile, with Bernie Streeter. I could get through the whole story, but we got 2 successive HODAG grants, $23 million, and we converted a decrepit, dying mill into the first downtown housing in decades. I believe we are at that moment again. Why? Because we know that the conversions work. We know that the conversions work. But those are easier projects to do for various economic reasons. The historic tax credit being a big part of it. This is the first time, like Ed Bryce's visit to City Hall, this is the first time someone has ever come in and said, I can build quality housing from the ground up in the central business district without a government subsidy. I can do that. No one in over 100 years has been able to accomplish that. If we do this project, it will be the first. We can create a new day for Nashua's downtown. This will be the first of many projects. And we can make, as much as we've seen Nashua improve the downtown through our joint efforts, we can see more improvement. We can see more people. We can make it more pedestrian friendly, a place where people really want to come and live and enjoy themselves, a part of our city that will boost the entire community. We can talk about the economics of it and how this will grow the tax base and all that, but really more important is just the improving the quality of life and improving the character. Now, we have talked about affordable housing. This is of course an issue, but the city is equally committed to developing more affordable housing just 2 blocks away at the Bronstein apartment. We've been pushing the Housing Authority on that for literally years, and they've worked with us on that, and they've done a good job. Because the neighbors the abutters have reservations on the parking issue, we've developed an alternative to discuss with you, get your feedback. That alternative is that we would use the funds, that we would establish public parking on the first level. City controlled, city owned meters, whatever we want, parking on the first level, a public parking lot underneath the housing. With the design features that would need to be done, it would be about 50 to 52 spaces instead of 78 or whatever is there now. But we know we can add 20 spaces on the street, Factory Street. We've had engineering look at it. We could show you kind of the rough ideas, but Factory Street, School Street, High Street, you put all that together, about 20 street spaces added. So we suffer a net loss of 8 or 10 spaces. That's it. We'd have public parking right across from the arena. But we need to devote the funds, the 900,000 plus the 1.3 million. That would be sufficient to cover the cost. We'd have to maybe float a short-term bond, but that income would, and a little bit of the taxes would cover the cost. We can do that. There are other alternatives. We could use the money to establish affordable housing component within the project, but then we wouldn't get the public parking. But I do say, this is the moment, like when Ed Bryce came in, we have a chance to create a new day for Nashua's downtown if we can just come to a consensus as to how to make this project successful. And with that, I'll go back to Tim.
Director Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mayor. So again, I'm just gonna quickly go through a PowerPoint slide deck to one, remind folks where we were in the conversation, and then talk a little bit about what we've done as of recently.
Are you going to try to full screen?
Yes, I can bring this up to full screen if that makes it easier for everyone to see. I also want to take the opportunity to introduce Peter Floats, the prospective developer for this site, is with us this evening along with his attorney. At a certain point, I'm going to hand it off to him to talk about some of the reasons why he's interested in working with Nashua, and then for him to discuss a very high level concept in terms of the design that he's provided. I will continue driving and I will have control of the slide deck, but I'll ask the Mr. Floats to narrate through the differing diagrams as necessary, so he can speak in better detail than I could on the thought process. I will begin my comments by echoing what the mayor just said, which was, Main Street is very different today than it was just 6 months ago. We've narrowed Main Street, and I can't tell you over the years how much I've heard folks say, you can never do it. It's not going to happen. And I was very, very subtle, very quiet, very, very much trying to shift the culture of this community because I knew it could happen. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit, and that necessitated the change. And I think this is a positive externality that occurred for us, and it took a little trust on the Board of Public Works, on the Board of Aldermen's part, but we knew we could do it. We had confidence, and it's turned out to be very successful. Similar type of mindset I'm going to ask you to take this evening, which is, we're doing things a little forward, a little bit progressive, but we're using best practices. We are trying to move Nashua in the right direction. I have confidence that we're doing it the best way possible. So with that orientation being said, the last time I was before you on this topic was in April when we filed the legislation, which is a master developer agreement, essentially a PNS, to sell the School Street parking lot, some 80-ish parking spaces, surface parking, between School and High Street, as outlined on this parcel. This is not a new topic. We have discussed this at length. In fact, it's in my operational goals for my department for the last few years as one of our top goals. We put an RFP out onto the street back in 2017, and this Board of Aldermen issued a piece of legislation saying that you were interested in putting this parcel out for development in 2015, 2016. So, we've been working on this for a long time. And I'm pleased to say that we're actually being able to make some positive progress on. So the developer, Peter Floats, and his team put together a very high level concept design for us. You got to understand that, there isn't going to be a lot of spending of money on details until we actually have a deal in place. I think we can all respect a developer not wanting to invest too much resources up front, because there's this considerable risk, especially when you're dealing with the public sector and trying to build the consensus necessary. But we have a very high level schematic of what was thought or contemplated, and I just want to say for the group, very much a design conversation is thought out in the master development agreement. It's understood that we will play a role in the design, and by no means is this the end of the day what it is that we would get. I believe we have a developer who's very community minded, who would want to work with us on the design standpoint. Relative to the deal itself, the master development agreement, in terms of the major takeaways, we were talking about 150 apartments with a $900,000 purchase price. I've outlined that we had a design review process in the agreement. There is $100,000 set aside on the city's part. Mainly, it was thought of looking at how we could use it to benefit the public, particularly how to look at maybe creating a road diet on School Street or High Street for that matter, but nonetheless being used in a way to benefit the public overall, so it wouldn't necessarily benefit the developer directly in terms of subsidizing them in this project, but enhancing the project to make it better, more pedestrian friendly, a beautification type aspect. The developer indicated that there was a willingness to pay $1.35 million over 5 years to provide future parking. That's what I refer to as a payment in lieu of providing parking on site. That's predicated off of up to 150 parking spaces being set aside, which we would agree to for 50 years at $50 a month for the first 10 years. And then it be going to whatever the market rate is for the subsequent years. We're looking at like $90,000 at 150 parking spaces per year. The development date for the outside of this agreement was originally set for the end of February. So those were the high level watermarks of what we were talking about that the legislation before you contemplates. In my PowerPoint presentation last time, I provide a sampling of differing merchants, restaurants, folks, local stakeholders in the downtown, some abutters, some not, about what it was that they thought about the project, mainly to dispel the notion that people were opposed to the project, because I know that there's been some of that being suggested. I took the opportunity to just kind of compare at a very high level what we thought the future value would be, predicated off of some comparables. It kind of gives you an idea that, the yearly taxes we could benefit on this project would be somewhere between $400,000 and $430,000 per year. Relative to the current parking revenue that we get, on average, it's something like $20,000, and relative to the usage of the High Street parking garage, it's pretty fair to say that it's only used about 20 to 25% of the time. So that is what we've seen in terms of recent study. Housing, I think it's pretty fair to say that we all know that we have a considerable need for housing, and that was one of the reasons why we were electing to go towards a multifamily development. Ultimately, what this is showing you, and this is more something Director Marchand hits upon, we need housing, particularly in this area, and we need market rate housing. As we've discussed previously, housing stock of all types is necessary, but what we know is we need more housing to slow the trend of how the rents have been increasing. So at the conclusion of that meeting, it was pretty clear that this body wanted us to meet with the abutters, develop some sort of thought process or consensus, if we could, to hear their concerns, try to incorporate their concerns into the project, verify the price, and make sure that what we were getting was fair and reasonable, answer miscellaneous questions, and ultimately provide more education on terms of the deal or the transaction at hand. So we met with the abutters over the course of a few meetings. The mayors participated in some, I in others, and we heard their concerns. And I think ultimately it is going to bring about a better project for the city. What was very clear is there's a desire by the abutters for the creation of more parking, both on and off street. Where, how, we would need to discuss the details on that, but their opinion is that we don't have enough parking. I respect and understand that. So they were suggesting, the loss of 80 spaces would be detrimental. So we understand that, we heard that, we will work towards that, achieving those goals, making pedestrian improvements such as crosswalks, enhancements, providing improvements to the High Street garage, lighting, safety. Some more unique type of ideas were discussed, and this would, the onus of some of this would be on the private sector, but valet type service, maybe drop zones, providing the regulations and whatnot to, have some drop-off spaces for the merchants or for the downtown stakeholder that may have an interest in that. Ultimately, they would need to facilitate the valet service. A concern on employee parking in terms of where their employees park and making sure that their employees had adequate access. Some of the abutters wanted specific lease arrangements to make sure that they were protecting their specific interests. I know the city has done that previously. I've indicated that's something we would absolutely be willing to do again. I know, for instance, as a recent example, the hospital used to lease a parking space from the city over off of East Hollis Street. We eventually sold that parking lot to them, but nonetheless, we have from time to time leased not just parking spaces, but entire parking lots. And, I know from meeting with Harbor Homes, this is something very much that they're interested in. And I've had some very productive conversations with them to try to advance that goal that they have. There was also an idea about a bus or chauffeur type service for customers. It was represented that the High Street garage, although it seems nice and in theory plausible, it would be difficult for some of their customers to use that facility without having some sort of chauffeur type service or bus transport. When I first heard that notion, I thought it was a little eyebrow raising, but I do understand the perspective of that you have customers who have handicap accessibility issues, maybe seniors. So the point was well taken, and I understand that is very much a concern that we would have to work through. So ultimately, what we worked towards is adding some additional on-street parking, somewhere in the vicinity of 20 to 30 spaces. That would be between School, High, and Factory Streets. We would be looking to add parking around the courthouse oval. We could do that by allowing parking within some of the legs that have been shut off currently, as well as knowing we want to eventually square that area off, make it more pedestrian friendly, get rid of that urban renewal design that is currently there. And with the squaring off of the courthouse oval, provide more on-street parking. Ultimately make pedestrian friendly type of improvements to make sure access is much friendlier, easier. And then ultimately, what we heard loud and clear was, 150 parking spaces in the High Street garage just seemed to be a little bit too untenable. And so what the thought process would be, and we've had conversations with Mr. Floats, is that we change the design, we raise it up a floor, and the first floor would be public parking. 50-ish parking spaces is what we would be talking about. And so to do that, the developer said that he would still be only interested in using the High Street garage for the parking for that building. So that first floor would not be leased. It would be truly public parking, but there would be an associated cost for this. It'd be about $2.5 million, which, we would have to understand that we would be taking that on. At this time, Mr. Chairman, I am going to exit my PowerPoint. I'm going to just pull up some slides, if I may, from what Peter has provided me in terms of what this site could look like. Can you see this on my screen now? Are you still seeing the PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah, it's still a PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. Bear with me for 1 second. I am pulling it up now. And with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to yield to Peter Floats for him to introduce himself, talk a little bit about his company, talk a little bit about why Nashua, and then ultimately talk a little bit about the design that we're contemplating right now.
Sure. Mr. Floats?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Peter Floats. I am the managing principal of Lansing Melbourne Group. We are consultants and developers focused these days primarily on public-private partnerships, mostly in multifamily. We have 3 particular sort of centers of activity for our company. One is where I live here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Another one is in the Charlotte, North Carolina market, where we're particularly active right now. And the other is in Southern New Hampshire. I'm a bit embarrassed that I don't have quite the speech that the mayor had, but I'm learning. Hopefully another 20 years, I'll be able to give one like that. But the passion that he displays for downtown redevelopment is one that we certainly try to undertake in our actual investment, and we've invested about $85 million in Manchester in the last 2.5 years. You may have seen the parking facility and mill redevelopment that we did at the southern end of the mill yard there in Manchester. The gigantic stainless steel screen that you can see now from the riverside. That was a build to suit that we did. We acquired that mill and provided a new administrative building and finance center for SNU. Similar to here, that was the first ground up building permit in the mill yard in 125 years. We also have the distinction of doing the second building permit in 125 years. We're about to finish a Hilton hotel in the Manchester Mill Yard. We're planning on opening in about 5 weeks. It's a great time to open a hotel, but we're going to move ahead anyway. We have no choice at this point. We're in negotiations right now with Manchester for a couple of hundred market rate units in a very, very similar configuration on a city parking lot. Derry has asked us to come look at a project they want to do along the old railroad right of way. And we've been in Dover in the past, and they have recently asked us to start looking at a site that they have. Again, a city parking lot that could be redeveloped in as some form of future multifamily. As the mayor said, this is what everybody's looking for, is sort of the somewhere for young people to stay downtown, to anchor them in your town, to keep them from moving away, keep them from drifting out to the suburbs, and then ultimately off the grid for the growth and sustainability of your city. In Charlotte, we have about 400 units under construction right now. We're about to break ground on another 1,000 in 4 more projects. All of those are partnerships in one way or another with cities. Some of them involve in the city of Kannapolis, which interestingly enough was a mill town that put a lot of the mills in New Hampshire out of business 100 years ago and got their just desserts, and their mills failed about 15 years ago. Kannapolis had a guy in there who tore down 6 million square feet of mills, which was horrible. But the town ended up owning the entire downtown when he was done with it. So we're down there right now building high density multifamily to bring people downtown. And then we've bought 3 entire blocks of historic buildings that we have in 6 months, we have leased 90% of the space, all to local folks. We're underwriting their credit quite a bit, taking a little chance on the local folks there, but the downtown is now thriving. We've rented to real estate offices and lawyers and accountants and barbers and hair salons and the like. It's great. It's like Main Street USA. In that project, the city brought $12 million to the table to pay for the parking under the building in order to make it economically viable. And we did a fairly good job there, where we got Goldman Sachs to invest $50 million with us, and they are now coming in and asking us to do more, which is why we're doing more projects. Fort Lauderdale, similar. We have in the traditional African-American neighborhood, we've assembled 3 blocks where we're going to be doing a 450 unit multifamily project. There, the city is making some investments with us also on the parking side. And we've got all of those are market rate, by the way. None of those are in any way, shape, or form subsidized housing of any sort. We're trying to attract young professionals who want to be in an active, vibrant downtown. So with that, I guess, Tim, you want me to run through these couple of alternatives? Would you mind showing the other one first?
I don't have that loaded up Peter. This
Okay, all right, so we'll stick to this one. So originally, as Tim said, there was an RFP in 2017. We responded to the RFP. The original request from the city that we responded to was for multifamily development on this parcel. There was nothing in the RFP at the time about providing public parking, so we didn't assume we needed to. And we came up with originally a hotel concept, and then we found that the market for multifamily was really, really getting strong. And the hotel market was honestly weaker than we thought it would be, just primarily because of the inventory you already have. And so we came up with a concept to put a building on the ground, use the site as it was. About 157 units is what we ended up with. And the concept being, as Tim showed you with the numbers, the high street garage is empty. We wanted to figure out a way to fill it. And we felt pretty comfortable in an urban environment that our residents would feel more than happy walking across the street to go to their parking. The alternative you see in front of you on the screen is one that we've come up with in the last couple of weeks, where what we've done is pulled the building up. What you're looking at is the south side of the building. So along School Street, there is a courtyard and plaza that originally was sitting down on the ground. And what we've done is pulled it up into the air, created a monumental stair that comes up into it and welcomes people into the building on that side. Some kind of vegetation growing on walls and some decent brickwork along there to make it kind of feel like an urban edge, and then create parking underneath it. It lowers the amount of apartments that we have because we lose part of a floor. So we're at about 144. It creates this stair issue, going up to the plaza, but we think that's a feature. It doesn't have to be a negative. Tim, do you want to go through plans at all and kind of show?
If you could just very quickly just kind of run through, and I'm gonna have this fit the screen here, but just if you could talk about a little bit how you make it work from this view.
Okay, so what we've done is we've worked on minimizing the things that are on the ground floor that relate to the residential building, so that there's the most possible space available for parking. We've managed to fit 50 spaces on this ground floor, leaving enough room for an entry lobby with elevators. And then along the right side, which is behind the social clubs there, is the service corridors that we need for things like electrical vaults, fire pumps, elevator pumps, electric rooms, telephone rooms, cable rooms, and all of that type of thing that come with a dense building like this. You can see cutting through sort of the right of center towards the lobby, there is that stair that you saw on the other sketch. We want to look at, once we get into the details, one of the things we want to do is look at creeping the building a little bit down towards school, so that we can create more of an urban edge on the north side and have some kind of gallery. We've talked about some art space and the like along the front of the building, the north side of the building, to create something interesting as you're walking by it. This would be 100% public parking. You walk in and out of there the same way you would in the parking lot today, except that your car's in the dry. It's not either baking in the sun or getting frozen from rain in December. You want to scroll further? I don't know what else is in this set, so I'm shooting blind a little bit here. Okay, that's the same plan, just bigger. And then this
units here.
Yeah, this is a typical floor, is showing you the unit layouts and the like. We've gotten pretty far in this. Part of the reason we're able to react quickly on things like this is just because of the volume we're doing right now. We know the units that people in this demographic like to rent. And so we're trying to assemble those like Legos basically into a building, and get the best yield that we can. So Tim, with that, I don't know if you wanted to look at the other one or not. It's going to be the same thing, just a lower plaza.
No, I don't think so, Peter. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, go back to my PowerPoint if I may, Mr. Chairman. I apologize, I couldn't incorporate that level of design into my PowerPoint. So if I could, Mr. Chairman, I'm just gonna quickly walk through here some of the higher level concepts to be able to move this conversation forward. So all right, so the original proposal talked about the things I discussed just a few moments ago. I've highlighted in yellow some of the major elements that would be changing to go with this alternative scenario. And I'm looking for direction in terms of how and which way you'd like to go. And the new design, as just discussed, raises the building up, includes 50 additional parking spaces on the site. It changes to be a 99-year air rights lease. So to be clear, the city would own the land on the ground level. We would be leasing the air rights above for the multifamily for 99 years. We would be at 144 apartments. We would essentially all the other details as I discussed previously. I would want to note that the School Street right-of-way would need to change a little bit as well. I think we would need to take a little bit more of School Street and incorporate that into the parcel to make some of the geometry work a little bit more. But again, continue to lease the spaces in the High Street garage, 150 spaces, as previously discussed. Due to the time delay as we've been working out these details, we'll have an outside date of something like April 15th. And ultimately, to do this, we would be looking at the city taking on a $2.5 million capital improvement project. And so I'm sure the thought process is well, how would we do that? And so my recommendation would be is for us to put a TIF together, and we use tax increment financing, and we would use the future tax dollars plus some of the cash from this transaction to ultimately pay for the 50 parking spaces. We've been working on this over the last 2 weeks. The math works. We had conversation with bond counsel today. We had conversation with Hilltop Securities, our financial advisor. We worked with the assessing department, our finance team. We can make this work. And my thought is to kill two birds with one stone. We look at and if we are going to go the direction of a TIF, we make the TIF a little bit larger. We include Pearl Street, School Street, and ultimately 201 Main Street for usage for the Performing Arts Center as well. And we could use the future tax dollars of this project to close the financial gap in that Performing Arts Center project as well. So to just show you quickly, this map here shows you an example of how that potential TIF would work. As you can see, it's very narrow. It's the red line that's delineated here, but it would allow us to use some of the tax increment funds for improvements on West Pearl Street as well as School Street, and of course for the Performing Arts Center. So I'm going to flip to the next page here. I don't know if you'll be able to read it too much because it's a lot of data, but ultimately it shows the math where if we were to put a TIF together, we would yield about 400,000 or plus tax dollars, we could put that towards a bond, and we would still have surplus money for the general fund if that was of interest. I can bring this up in a separate file if the body has an interest in that. Ultimately, what we would be looking at is an $8 million bond over 25 years. Here's some of the scenarios we would be looking at: maybe a 2% annual interest rate, or 2.5, and it shows you what the payment would be, and we can, we can definitely make the project work with this type of arrangement. I want to just make sure I'm clear that I am not suggesting we not pursue a new market tax credit or the local capital campaign private sector contributions. That still needs to be part of the Performing Arts Center project as a condition. But what we all know is, we have a bond authorization about 15.5 million. We will be somewhere netting a private contribution combination of new market tax credits and local charitable giving of about $4 million. So we're just around 20 million, and we have a new market, and we have a Performing Arts Center project of about 25 million. So we would be needing to close that gap to make this all work. And this project can do both. It can help the Performing Arts Center, and it can provide parking for the downtown. And so when I originally was starting to hear about this idea of adding additional parking, my concern was, well, I don't really want to do a TIF just to benefit one small project. It really should be for an improvement of the general downtown. When I started looking at it closer, I realized we could incorporate the Performing Arts Center into the project, and it passed muster both legally and financially. I thought I had a responsibility to bring it to you as a solution for consideration. So I guess, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'm going to stop my PowerPoint presentation now. I have separate slides or files that I could pull up that could go into greater detail if need be, if a question comes up. But ultimately, in speaking about this idea with Peter Floats and his team, I presented them this idea, and Peter has submitted a letter to me, which I can share with you now, but basically outlines, their opinion is that it's an improvement to the downtown, and it's something that they would support in terms of having their TIF dollars go to the Performing Arts Center. It only benefits everyone that's involved. So I can show you that letter if you'd like, Mr. Chairman, but I have that and I can send it to the committee as well. So with that being said, I guess my question to you is, what is the pleasure of the committee, and how would you like us to go? I'm very cognizant of wanting to be fair to all the parties involved, and I'd like to facilitate a process where we can achieve consensus. Thank you.
I would like you to send all of your presentations to Donna for distribution to all the aldermen. I see all the hands. Hang on a second. And this evening, they're looking for our input. So if you like something, say so. If you don't like something, say so. But we're not voting on it tonight, so let's not get into long speeches. Just be succinct in what you like and don't like. And I'm going to start with President Wilshire.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very interested in the TIF and how we could make that work and be beneficial for the whole downtown. So that out of tonight, everything I've heard, I think that's the most interesting to me. And, I agree that, you don't want to set it up for one parcel and leave the rest, but that seems to be a real win-win for us. So personally, I'd like to see you, go that angle and see how we can work that out.
Well,
Thank you.
Set. Alderman Clemmons, then Alderman Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Cummings and Mr. Floats for coming this evening. I really, and Tim, I think this is a great proposal. It takes into account the abutters and their concerns about the parking. It takes into consideration the fact that we need more housing downtown. And I think obviously the Performing Arts Center is something that this Board of Aldermen overwhelmingly supports. And I think that this proposal tries to make that funding gap disappear in a way that is sustainable and will not cost taxpayers, an undue amount. So I would suggest that this would be the direction that we go in. Initially, I was not going to support this project because of the fact that it was taking away the parking from the abutters. But if the plan is this moving forward, you'll have my support 100%, because I believe that it's not perfect, but it takes into account the concerns of the abutters, and it shows them that this Board of Aldermen listens when the community comes forward, and we really put and think and listen to the details and put something together that the community can get behind. So that, if that's the direction we go, I certainly will support it, and I would encourage my colleagues to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Clemmons. Alderwoman Kelly.
Thank you. I wanted to also thank those involved for hearing the concerns of the abutters. I know I brought those forward, and I think this is a really smart compromise. I think it tying it with the economic activity that we're going to see with this Performing Arts Center is going to achieve a downtown that we can be really proud of. So thank you for that. I actually had a question, if I may. There was a point made that the first time that Mr. Floats, I think I said that right, responded to this, that the original RFP was for multifamily downtown, and then there was there was something about a hotel perhaps, and now we're here. So I just wanted to hear about, how we got there. Has it changed that drastically down there, or have other things, come on the market that have allowed us to kind of get where we are now? Thank you.
Did
Mr. Chairman, can I answer that directly?
Mr. Floats?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So Alderman Kelly, we originally approached the city when we responded to the RFP in the hopes that a hotel would make sense on the project. We were doing a number of hotels across the country at the time. And it appeared that there was a fair amount of interest from a certain flag that wanted to be in downtown. By the time we got through, I don't know, Tim, you may remember, we probably did a year of planning on it. And the bottom line was, when we looked at the rates that the hotels were getting along the freeway and what we had to compete with, we had about a $3 million shortfall in terms of whether the project made financial sense or not. And we started talking about that, and there didn't seem to be a whole lot of interest, I'll have to say, in figuring out how we might close that financial gap. And so we turned our head back towards residential, because more and more and more, as we got to know more about Nashua, and honestly, as we're getting to know more about Southern New Hampshire, we've been there now about 20 years, we found out that housing was really the key element that was missing, particularly housing for younger people at market rate. People were just kind of squeezing out into the outer areas and then ultimately moving away. And we wanted to figure out a way to solve that problem. So I think with that, we really like coming into a community and saying, you know, we're on our own, we're big boys, we can do this project. We're coming back to you now with this sort of wrinkle as a result of your comments and others, bringing the concerns of the abutters. And I agree. I think it's an elegant solution that Tim and staff have come up with. We're buying into it 100%.
Thank you. Yeah, you all said, Alderman Kelly?
If I could just one follow-up, please.
Okay.
So I appreciate the clarification on the hotel. Were there other, and maybe this is a Tim question, were there other proposals that came forward that were in that multifamily conversation? And I'm just wondering, from, it just seems like a big change from we need multifamily housing to now single small units. And I think this project is great. I just want to make sure that I'm doing my due diligence and understand, you know, what we're thinking for downtown right now.
If I may, Mr. Chairman. So when we put the RFP out, we made it very clear we were looking for multifamily development as an idea. By no means were we married to that use exclusively. We ultimately wanted development on the School Street site. The downtown specialist at the time, Mr. Veo, actually was a big proponent of two concepts, a live-work unit, particularly on the first floors, and then micro units above. And he very much was trying to pursue this micro unit type of concept. This actually falls in line with that theory that was in the RFP. I will say the development community, the entrepreneurs who take on these projects, the ones we traditionally turn to are more local developers. They didn't see the vision. They did not respond, even though we marketed the RFP very aggressively. And so we were very pleased that we got a sophisticated national developer doing work in Manchester take a look at Nashua, where they would be investing outside dollars into our market. And so those were the reasons that pushed us in that direction.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I kind of want to echo some of the words that have already been spoken. I think we've had a lot of issues going on here. We've had the abutters who feared the loss of parking, and justifiably so. And we've had the trying to work in the area of the Performing Arts Center, specifically, West Pearl, et cetera. I think this is very creative, and I give a lot of kudos to Director Cummings and his staff for coming up with a plan like this. And I appreciate Mr. Flott's willingness to kind of work with this, as he called it, a wrinkle. I think it's a good idea. I think trying to find as much as possible is really a good thing. And while I'm not on this committee, I really do want to put forward my voice to say that I like this idea. I look forward to hearing even more about it. I think it kills multiple birds with one stone. And we've learned from the past TIFs, albeit they're still new, that they do work. And it brings people to that area saying that they know that their tax dollars are going to go to that area to beautify it. And I think it's a win-win situation. So I commend everybody for stepping up and working with this. So thank you.
Yep. Alderman Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say I absolutely love the way this is evolving. Thank you for listening to the issues that people are really struggling with on this. And I think you've come to something that really does solve a lot of the issues that we were looking at. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Alderman Lopez.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of mixed feelings about this project, particularly because, well, I really want to see housing happen in that area. I love the fact that we're building up versus building out, and there's a lot of strengths to the project, but there was also a lot of concerns about the parking. And I mean, presuming I'm still alderman in the future, that is the number one thing I'm going to hear complaints about, is the extra 60 or so people who couldn't figure out where to park or whatever. So I was not really looking forward to that. And I was concerned about the communication with the abutting neighbors, but the overwhelming concerns that I've heard them talk about is parking, safety of traffic, and that kind of thing. And I can see a genuine effort to address those problems. Adding like on street, I don't even know what to call it, on street parking or including parking in this design is no small feat. So I definitely want to give a shout out to Peter, the developer, Director Cummings. Yes, Director Cummings, I appreciate this. And then Mayor Donchis for really trying to figure out how to make this a solid project that fits in with that neighborhood's need, while at the same time recognizing the larger needs of the city. I mean, I still have some reservations about, you know, affordable housing because that is an ongoing need in our community, and the identity of the neighborhood. And I look forward to hearing the feedback from the abutting neighbors. I want to see what they think of this presentation and this plan. But I think it's evident that a lot of work has been put into this. There is a genuine effort to try to build something here that fits in with the neighborhood and recognizes the needs of the businesses. So I want to express a lot of gratitude for the direction that we're heading in, and thank everybody for the work that they've been putting in. I know it hasn't been easy, especially with COVID-19 and trying to create an investment that is viable and yet at the same time meets other seemingly intangible needs. So I appreciate it very much.
Was there anyone else that had comments?
Yes,
Seeing none. Hello,
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Alderman Jettie.
Yeah, thank you. So I like the idea of the first level parking. I had originally expressed kind of a preference that the project contain its own parking, whether below level or on the first level. This seems to answer that suggestion, but my idea was that the developer would be providing the parking. So I'm hearing about this for the first time, so I'm still processing it. It would be a lot more attractive to me. I mean, what I see is that the developer is going to pay us, $9,000 per unit. I think it was $1.3 million on top of the sales price, in exchange for, in lieu of providing parking. Now he's paying that same amount, and we're going to build parking for the project at the cost of $2.5 million. So it looks to me like we're $1 million short here, and but that's just my initial reaction. I'm still processing. It sounds like a great idea, but I am concerned about that difference in the money we're getting, the money that we're going to have to pay in order to make this project work, as opposed to the developer making it work.
Okay, thank you. And anyone else? Director Cummings?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure it's clear that the parking spaces being provided on the first floor will be for the public. That is very much the intention and the direction we're going. So that wouldn't be for the developer or the benefit of this project. In addition to that, just the market can't support structured parking in and of itself, and there's a reason why you're not seeing new development occur, and it's because the project costs, the economics don't justify it. So creating a win-win solution like we're suggesting, I think has a lot of merits to it, and then making it broader based. So I want to be very clear on this. This isn't a project specific TIF. I'm incorporating Pearl Street, and I know, and we didn't even get into this, there's always been some ideas about streetscaping on Pearl Street, reversing the direction. Now that costs money. I am providing you now a source to be able to do that at some point, a source of funds. in addition to the Performing Arts Center. And so there's a good overall community value that we would be getting. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Mr. Floats, did you have something you wanted to add, or?
No, sir. My mother assured me there were times when I should just be quiet.
Yeah, mine too.
I would like to say, just to the, if everyone can hear me, just wanted to say hello to everyone. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just wanted to say hello to everyone. I've had family in New Hampshire throughout my whole life and going back generations before that, but I've been to Nashua a few times and also recently since we've been talking about this project, and I very much enjoy going to your downtown, and we'll enjoy working on the project as well. But I've been going to Nashua's downtown since for a long time.
I thought you were a radio operator with all that equipment you got there.
No, just a musician by birth.
Oh, there you go. That was my second
When they
choice.
told me to go on video calls, I have all this stuff sitting in the office anyway.
All right. First of all, thank you, Mr. Floats, for joining us this evening. I have inquired about some of your projects in Manchester, and I got outstanding feedback that everything was top notch, first class, and the project ended up extremely well, and everybody was happy. So I was pleased at that. And also, I like this new concept. And I think that we'll be moving forward with more information. I know the Director Cummings and the mayor, and we'll be getting together with the developers and fine tuning the things that we have talked about this evening, and look forward to the final solution that comes back to us for potential vote. Director Cummings?
Yes, if I could, Mr. Chairman, what I was going to suggest, and it appears as though we do have consensus, and I'm not hearing any strong opposition. What I would want to make a recommendation to this body, and particularly to the president of the Board of Aldermen, is what I would recommend is we look to pursue a special Board of Aldermen meeting for maybe the end of the month, so we can actually get the TIF legislation in place. And we don't necessarily need to adopt it until we're ready to adopt the legislation before this committee. But there's a lot of work that needs to go into creating a TIF. Beyond the legislation itself, there's a development plan that we need to put together. There's a financing plan that we need to put together. I am more than happy to do this and to work on that timeline. Ultimately, we'll need a bond authorization. And so those other elements of legislation that's not part and parcel to this piece of legislation that's before you, what I would recommend we do is start the process now, because there's a public hearing that's going to be required. And we do that work so we could feel comfortable that we could approve this legislation once we have the mechanisms mechanically in place. If that's the pleasure of the group, I will start tomorrow on that effort.
Yeah, I was going to say, Director Cummings, that you, and I'll let Laurie speak in a minute, but if you just send these these PowerPoints out to the rest of the board, you're going to generate a heck of a lot of questions. And I think at that time, we ought to have, okay, here's when you're going to get your answers, or, call Director Cummings or whatever. But President Wilshire, do you want to address the?
I was just going to say, I'd be happy to call a special meeting. Just let me know what you need and when we need to do it, and we will make that work.
All right.
Thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome.
Alderman Clemens.
Yeah, just briefly, I would also recommend that we, if Mr. Chairman, if you could, or President Wilshire, that as soon as this video becomes public and the meeting becomes public, or is on the website, that we send this out to the board and encourage board members to watch this meeting, because I think a lot of the information that other board members who aren't here might have questions. I think some of them might be answered tonight. And then it might also, you might also have other questions that come up by watching this. So I think to avoid, a situation like happened last night, just a small email that says, hey, this meeting's up, take a look at it. There's some really good information here, and then, move forward. So
I think that's a great suggestion. Okay. Alderman Lopez.
I just wanted to extend the invitation. I will be personally putting this on my Facebook page. So if all of you would like to just look at that, that's obviously the place to go to look.
Too much time on your hands there, Alderman Lopez.
I read all of these books, so yeah.
Okay, and Mr. Keating, we're going to have public input, so if you want to provide something at that point. So unless there's anything further on this subject, I like to entertain a motion to table this until future date. Alderman Wilshire.
I'll make a motion to table resolution 20-28.
Okay, the motion is to table R20-028 to a future board budget meeting. Is there any question on that? No? Would you, clerk, please call the roll?
Chairman Dowd,
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons,
yes.
Alderman Schmidt,
Yes.
Alderman Jody votes yes, Alderman Wilshire,
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
So 6 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, that R20-028 is now tabled. I don't think we're going to take anything else off the table this evening. So next item on the agenda is general discussion. Oh, Mr. Floats. Oh, just saying goodbye. Okay. Yes, Mr. Melville and Mr. Floats are signing off. Okay. Any general discussion? Not seeing any public comment. Would anyone like to provide public comment? Yes, Mr. Keating?
Yeah, I'm just a bit confused. You spoke about public comment. You're saying that for the next meeting in regards to the School Street property?
No, the public comment is for this meeting right now. You can provide public comment.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, I would at this point. Thank you. My name is Bob Keating, and I'm a member of Granite State Organizing Project, and that aware that that there is a critical need for housing in our community, and the most need is for the low and very low income, which is defined as 50% for low income, which would be about $36,500 for a household, and very low income would be at $21,000. So you'd look at for apartment rents at $900 plus for the 50% of the average medium income, and for the very low it would be $547. So that's the area that we're speaking about. Just recently, the National Housing and Redevelopment Authority said that their waiting list is over 3,000 for public housing units, and for Section 8, it's 3,800. So that's a very large waiting list. We're talking about, in some cases, people would be waiting 8 years before a housing unit would be available. So given that, I think this property is a city property. It's as everyone has said, it's in a central location, and it's accessible to public services, including public transportation. It's also walkable So for those who are of limited income, it is a particularly valuable place to live. So that with the group that I belong to, that we think that it would be important that a substantial amount of units, if a project does get voted by the board, be set aside for those of the low and very low income. We've talked a lot about it in our city, and here's a particular moment that we have an opportunity, to do that. I think that to develop this project with a private developer and not addressing that, I think would be missing out at a very important, opportunity and an ability to, in a sense, make manifest what has been talked about for years. This would be the city's efforts, since we are in a way supporting the private developer in terms of this this project, and that's been raised a number of times. So I would hope that the aldermen would really consider about ways in which this project could be modified or adapted in some ways, that those who are the most housing stressed in our community would have an opportunity to be in what looks like a very well-designed project. So thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to provide public input? Seeing and hearing no one. Remarks by Alderman? Anyone? I just want to comment that I think that your concerns, Mr. Keating, are probably going to be championed by Alderman Kelly. And I think perhaps maybe not for this project, but in the area of downtown Nashua, because the type of housing that you're addressing, probably knowing several developers, can't be touched unless there's federal funding along with it, because a private developer just couldn't afford it. The building costs are far too expensive, and there's no way for them to make any kind of return on that investment. There's a couple places in Manchester that were developed that way, but they had federal funding to put units aside. So I'm sure that Alderman Kelly is going to address that going forward, and I think the mayor is also in tune with that. So I think that you will see some improvement in that area. Any other Alderman comment? Alderman Lopez from the library.
I think Alderman Kelly's got a lot of friends who are going to help with that too.
Okay. Yes. Alderman Kelly?
I was going to make the same comment. I'm not alone in this, and I know there's some champions on the city side as well. Director Martian, I know, is very interested in looking at this as well. So I know it's a thing that we need to consider, not only because of the results of our consolidated plan that we put together, but also just from being on the board of the soup kitchen and really knowing what's going on with housing stock. It's something that I am actively working on and bringing as many people who wants to come help.
Yeah. So, yeah. Alderman Clements?
Yeah, and just to add to that, obviously it's something that I am supportive of. I've been a champion of in the past. And my hope is that come January, we have a new administration in Washington, D.C. that will bring some of these grants and things back to the communities and help places like Nashua do what Mr. Keating is asking. And so that's I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that happens. So that's my goal.
Any other comments from any alderman? Seeing none, we already had the non-public. Do I hear a motion? Alderman Kelly.
Move to adjourn.
Motion is to adjourn. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Dowd,
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons,
Yes.
Alderman Schmidt,
Yes.
Alderman Jettie votes yes, Alderman Wilshire,
Yes.
Alderman Kelly,
Yes.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carries, and I want to thank Alderman Jettie for stepping up to the plate to fill in as clerk. You did a great job tonight.
Good job, Ernie.
Well, thank you.
Just be careful, because when you do that, the next time they need a clerk, they're gonna look to you to fill in.
I don't have 35 years on the fire department, so I don't think I'll be taking
Okay,
clerk's job away from him.
everyone, we're adjourned at 9:48.
Good night.